Okay, up until now, I have shown you how to take a value and find the probability of randomly selecting a number below that value, randomly selecting a number above that value, or randomly selecting a number between two values. Either way, we're starting with a value and getting a probability. What if we already have the probability and we want to know the z-score from that? There are some actually very useful practical applications for this. And so I'm going to show you very briefly how to do that here. So we've already done this. We found the probability of having a z-score less than a value. In this picture, I'm looking at the z-score less than -1. And we can find that using a calculator of some sort to be 0.159. Now, if I were to look at the opposite point of view, I would say, what's the value? We want to know what's the problem. Can we use the probability to give us a z-score? The answer is yes. This has everything to do with what we call percentiles. So a z-score of -1 is what we call the 15.9th percentile, meaning that a value of 1 is above 15.9% of my data. Perhaps you've dealt with percentiles before. I know we talked about them back in lesson 6 when we talked about the 5-number summary and quartiles. We introduced the idea as well of percentiles. And now with normal distributions, we can take a closer look at that. So what value is above 15.9%? That would be a z-score of -1. So -1 is the 15.9th percentile. Now, we don't usually use these scores when we talk about percentiles. This usually makes a lot more sense with real values. So let's actually go to a more realistic problem. We've used this example in previous videos to show how to calculate probabilities given a value. Now we're going to flip it and we're going to find the 65th percentile of a shovelful of dirt. Okay, remember this problem? We want to find the weight of a shovel of dirt. We found an average of 15 pounds with a standard deviation of 2.4 pounds. So what value represents the 65th percentile? All right, so that means the probability of what value x, probability of x is going to be below, I'm not saying this right, I apologize, try this again. The probability of having an x value less than what number gives me a probability of 0.65. Okay, so the way we're going to start off is doing this with a z-table. We're going to start off and find what z value will give me a probability of 0.65 if I'm looking for z values below that particular z-score. Okay, so let me pull up my z-table here. Let me zoom in there. Now, remember how we used this before. No, I think I'm going to keep this out. We found the z-score, and then we took the first up to the first decimal point here, and we said, well, line it up with the second decimal point. That would be the area or the probability. In this case, we're going to go the other way around. We're going to start with a probability and find the z-score. So I look inside and say, where is the area equal to 0.65? Now, all of these have negative z-scores, which means that the highest my probability can be is 0.5, and there it is at a z-score of 0. So let's go to the second page. And now here, our probabilities are going to be greater than 0.5 because we're dealing with positive z-scores. So I just look in here and find, well, where's 0.65? Well, I found 0.6480 and 0.6517. It's going to be somewhere between these. So what would be my z-score? It'd be 0.385, probably. 0.385, somewhere around there, right? It's somewhere between 0.38 and 0.39. So we'll say 0.385. That will be our z-score. So now we're going to reverse engineer this. Remember, we had a value. We used to have values and translate them to z-scores. Now we're going to take our z-score and translate it back to a value. So here is the z-score equation. A z-score is the value minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. If we solve for x, then it turns out that x is going to be the z-score times the standard deviation plus the mean. All I did was solve for x. That's all I did here. So I take my z-score of 0.385, multiply it by the standard deviation of 2.4, and then I add the mean, 15. And that will give me 15.924. So what's the 65th percentile of my shovels full of dirt? My 65th percentile is 15.924. Okay. So in the following videos, I'm going to show you, I've already shown you how to use a z-score to calculate a probability. In the next few videos, I'm going to do the reverse and show you, given a probability, how do you find the z-scores.